Hindi ko lang po makita yung work ni Rama. There. Here we go. On a cold December evening, I took a walk outside. I immediately felt the chill in my whole body and noticed I had totally forgotten to wear a jacket. Now that's great because Rama, what you were able to do is you you were able to reel us in, and then you provided this parang plot twist at the end. So that's really great. So ako as a reader, I'll be intrigued. And bakit kaya? I would like to learn more. Why did you forget to wear a jacket on a cold December evening? So thank you for that. And ayun, so we also have more coming in from Brian Bukwid. Okay, on a cold December evening, I took a walk outside. Jose Marie Chan's songs drowned the busy streets. What a wonderful verb to use, drown. You can see that it talaga yung nagdominate during Christmas season, no? Emphasizing that holidays are just around the corner. Sense of ginger tea and puto bumbong peppered the air. Ay, ang ganda. Love it. Bringing a sense of nostalgia that my Christmas bonus is about to get transferred to my account. O, diba? So you were able to use these events that, I mean, we all are familiar with. And then you actually showed us that these remind you of something personal. So these hint towards your Christmas bonus. So very nice relationship that you established there, Mr. Brian Bukid. And lastly, we have from Sofia Isabel Opulencia. On a cold December evening, as snowflakes danced in the sky to land on my face, I took a blissful walk outside in a winter wonderland. Good use of words. I bought my skates to dance on the ice lake, like figure skating, joined with uh, children playing with snow, creating snow angels. That's very nice, Sophia, because you showed us this winter wonderland. Yun nga, yung imagery of snow. So thank you for that. And we have from Peter. So I was mesmerized by the gigantic star standing beside the Ali Mall terminal surrounded by the condos around Araneta City. Then someone tapped my back. Oh, diba? So ikaw as a reader, ano kaya nangyari in this place that this person was in? Because it just seems like a regular day. But because of that last sentence that you put, mapapaano yung reader. Okay, and from Barredo, R.E. Barredo, I took a walk outside, slight wind brushed my skin, the leaves of the trees swayed over my head. Alas, a bat swooned towards me. Very nice, very nice. I like how you incorporated here, you use talaga ng punctuation marks, because that really helps in your writing. Okay, thank you everyone for that output. We really appreciate it. And now we will move on to the next prompt. Okay, so here. So this is where you can insert sentences that will show yung pivotal moment or highlight the highlight of your essay. So you can just make this up. Ano kayang nangyari after this prompt? So the dog walked up to me with his pleading eyes. So if you can try to add to that so that something exciting comes out or a pivotal moment comes out from this, we can try to do that together as well. So I'll try that right now as well. And we also have an entry from Carlos Sevilla. Okay, on a cold December evening, I hurriedly took a walk outside to confront my neighbors who were singing and drinking on the sidewalk across my house. So I like how you used across because that establishes direction and it shows your point of view. So where are you in relation to them? So ang ganda nun. My under the street lamp. My 1-year-old child couldn't sleep, and I didn't care if I was outnumbered. Okay, so we can we can see there's some tension is building up. So that's very effective in doing creative writing in the form of an essay. So thank you, Carla, for that. And now we have this, yung other exercise. So try to make a pivotal or let's say dramatic moment with using this prompt. So the dog walked up to me with his pleading eyes. So you can run with that. So let's try to make this type of moment that ito talaga yung pivotal or yung tatatak talaga sa reader mo. So let's try to do it together. So 2 to 3 sentences lang po. You can send it again via the chat box. Okay, so I was able to make this little prompt. And also we have from Albert. So from Albert, on a cold December evening, I took a walk outside. I was hoping to have the chilling night help in subside this heat inside me. Okay, so this use of quote of these marks for heat. So that's intriguing. Thank you for that. So yun, me as a reader, I would like to know more. So that's a good use of words for your introduction. Okay, so we have here from Joanne Meg Porter. So I reached out to pet him as he inched closer. A low growl came out from under his breath as his eyes turned blood red, his teeth sinking into my shaking hand. Okay, so I like how you really narrated yung act na nangyari. So the dog bit you, but you just didn't say, "Oh, the dog bit me." You really narrated what happened. So that's much appreciated, Joanne Meg. Thank you for that. We also have from Brian Bookwid. So unkempt, hungry, cold, battered, and definitely smelling like wet dog. And that it's that no one else existed. The dog mirrored my current state. This is indeed war. Thank you for that, Brian. That's you can para siyang reflection of yourself, and ang ganda ng ginawa mo kasi you related this actually to yourself, to something within you. So thank you for that. And we have from Miss Isay Buot. So the dog walked up to me with his pleading eyes. I took the food I was about to eat out and sighed. I would sigh too. the dog continued to the dog continued to stare at me, and guilt pooled in my heart. I smiled at the dog and threw the food on the ground for him to eat. Thank you for that. Uh, Isay is Ma'am Tessa's daughter. So thank you for that. We actually have the same train of thought, yung pagbigay nga ng pagkain sa aso. So we can see this sort of like self-sacrifice or yung kind gesture. So it kind of reflects on your character as well in your essay. So we have from Carlo Sevilla. So I looked down on him with sadder eyes to convince him that I have nothing to offer and I may be the hungrier creature between the two of us. Ang ganda. Thank you, Carlo. You took a different route with this prompt, and ang ganda because it shows a reflection of yourself, your inner turmoil, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, so for the last exercise for this essay part. Okay, so this is our prompt. When I think about that day, I find myself smiling. So you just have to provide 2 to 3 more sentences to yun nga, para siyang wrap up of your essay. So again, since ano lang to, paputol-putol rin yung exercise natin, just insert 2 to 3 sentences which shows a reflection or your own personal reflection. You can also base this off of what you were writing a while ago sa ating dalawang prompts. So I'll also try to write for this. So here you have to bring your essay to a close. So you have to provide a resolution for this essay that you wrote. So let's try it together. So you just have to dito mo here you will show yung lesson learned, and um yun nga what do you call this? Uh, ano ba yung importance of your essay as a whole? So I will also write. So you can write along and send your entry in the chat. Okay, so for my entry, so I was able to parang I looked at what we wrote a while ago, and then I brought it to a close. I brought the essay to a close. So what did I get out of this experience? So what was the ending? What happened? And then what did I learn from it? So here you can see that I actually gained a companion, and I learned that life is full of surprises. So you can put your lessons learned there. So you bring the experience to a close and you share what lesson you have learned from it. So that's what you something an approach that you can do for this part. Okay. Oh, we also have an entry from Anne Bernadette Aceron. So the dog walked up to me with the speeding eyes. I didn't know what to do, for I myself don't have enough. So I stood up from my spot and searched the garbage bins to find something for both the dog and me. So this, thank you Anne Bernadette, kasi this shows it not only shows yun nga yung situation with the dog, it also reflects your situation, your inner situation, and your own circumstances nga. So thank you for that. You're able to relate yourself to to your encounter with the dog. So with this, we were able to get a glimpse into actually what your struggles are as well. Thank you for that. Okay, so back to this complete the ending prompt. So ayun, you can just insert what how would your essay end with this prompt, and then a lesson that you learned and would like to share with other your readers. So you still use the first person point of view in making this part and completing your ending. So it can reflect anything. So it can be something that you realize about yourself or about the world. So it depends. Oh, so we also have a prompt from R.E. Barredo for the previous practice. So the dog walked up to me with his pleading eyes. I sat down beside him, patted his head, and told him how my day went. So that's great because we saw with your use of verbs, we were able to see the actions that you did when you approached the dog. Okay, for this part, thank you, Mr. Brian Buquid. We have this ending that he shared. So when I think about that day, I find myself smiling. His easygoing grin singed my retinas, etched my brain with a plethora of emotions I've never thought I would have. Walking away from the bustle of people wearing white and black, I wonder, would things have been different if I just stayed? Thank you for that. Ang ganda. It shows us, for me as a reader, if I were to encounter this, I can understand the mental process that you experience with this, and also um, these questions that you have and what you were able to gain from this experience that you shared in your essay. So thank you very much for this, Brian. Thank you. Okay, so we also have from Carlo. Thank you, Carlo. It was that fateful evening in February 1986 when the news when the news reported that the family of murderers and thieves were whisked off to Hawaii. They escaped the wrath of the people. When I think about that night, I find myself smiling. So thank you, Carlo. Here you were able to relate this historical moment, this part in our history with your own personal experience and your own life as well. So thank you for that. And um, it's important rin in our writing that we reflect and we show uh, these ideas, these stands that we have, and we share them with others so that we can encourage them to think what is right and what has to be done, and um, what do we need to improve on ourselves as a society. So yun, everything has to have a purpose in writing. And when we write, hopefully we can encourage good, good in people. And then from Isay Buot, when I think about that day, I find myself smiling. I was hungry that day, but the dog was hungrier. I hope he liked my leftover lunch. Thank you for that. So here we can see that although, I mean, sacrificing your lunch um, for this dog that you encountered is a reflection of your character as well, and your intentions as a person. So thank you for that. Okay, so for the essay, something that you can have as a possible output is to have an it's to make an essay, and of course you have to highlight or include one event in your life. I think we can start off with just one event first, so that we can also get to practice how we can dissect this certain event in our life, and how we can dissect them into different parts and put them together in one essay so that it can also highlight a certain lesson that we would like to impart to our reader. So yun, in your essay, you provide a title, of course. Always provide a title because that's what your essay is going to be known as in publications, especially if you want to get published. Focus on one experience in your life from which you have learned an important lesson, and then write your essay following the structure that we discussed a while ago. So your intriguing introduction, and then you move on. Your the events of your essay or the parts of your essay have to lead to the pivotal moment, and then from that you go and you have your resolution and you show what you have learned from that experience. Okay, so we also have an entry for the last practice from Anne Bernadette Aceron. When I think about that day, I find myself smiling. Who says a dog could be as humane as you and me? I am humbled. Yes, thank you for that, Anne Bernadette. Okay, so if you have any questions about the essay, kindly save them. We will answer them later in the Q&A portion of this workshop. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed uh, writing, and look forward to receiving your submissions later on, para makagawa naman tayo ng napakagandang anthology showing our creative skills. Okay, so moving on to poetry. So this is our second form of creative writing that we will be discussing today. So poetry. So I want you to think about the last poem you encountered. So actually, poetry is also uh, songs, raps. They're considered poetry. So perhaps the last song you listened to, you can think about that. So was it part of your readings, or were you listening to it? Did you write it yourself? So you think about all of these encounters that you have with poetry. Okay, so what to remember about poetry? So poetry is always written in verse form. So when we say verse form, these are words in a rhythmic pattern. So you have rhythm in poetry. So for example, in your songs, in raps, we always see these are words coupled with rhythm, with rhyme, to uh, to provide vivid imagery to um, our readers. Okay, now here we have the rhythmic use of words to create imagery and calls for the use of poetic devices. So I'm sure that you've encountered these terms before. So poetic devices. So ano ba mga to? Let's take a look. So when you write poetry, you have to remember that there are different elements that you have to consider for you to write a good poem. So first is poetic structure. So first we have the stanza. So a stanza in poetry is a series of group lines. So this makes up the body of your poem. So first we have different types of groups of stanzas. So some that you may be familiar with from your readings. Is it a couplet? So is that 2 lines? Or a quatrain? So 4 lines. So if you look back on the poems you have read and these songs that you encounter, these nursery rhymes, raps, you can try to dissect them and look at their structure. So for example, here Mary had a little lamb. So here we can see we have 4 lines, so we would consider that a quatrain. So it's interesting because these are grounded in historical work, so from Sila Shakespeare, and you can see how until now, even in the songs that you play and the pieces that are written today, these still follow a structure based on what has been established before. So you can try looking at this type of element when you encounter different types of work. Okay, so for poetic structure, we also have different types of poetry. So when you write poetry, you also have to consider ano ba yung what type am I writing? And is it aligned with what message I want to bring? Is it is it appropriate? So here we have lyric, narrative, and descriptive poetry. So when we say lyric, it's basically just song like, so lyrics in a song, so it takes on the structure of a song, and you use this just to show raw feelings and emotions as an author. Then we have narrative. So a narrative is a type of poetry that tells a story actually. So you use this structure of verses in poetry to tell a story to your reader. And usually, your point of view when you write narrative poetry is uh, as the reader or as the main character of your piece. And lastly, we have descriptive poetry. So when you say descriptive poetry, um, it's more focused on the world around you. So you describe and you talk about these external or physical features of these everyday objects or these living things that you encounter every day. Okay, so this is more of a realistic approach. So you look at the qualities and features of those around you in making descriptive poetry. And then you have to remember, we also have different subtypes. So these subtypes you may have discussed in courses, so such as English 11, English 12. So we have several that are very popular. So you have the sonnet. So this is most of you may know this from Shakespeare. So here, these are usually about love, emotions of love, and a single thought or feeling. So yun nga, usually about love yung topic of a sonnet. And then we have the haiku. So haiku, you probably recognize this with the 575 syllable count. But more importantly, haikus talk about natural imagery. So nature at its best. You highlight nature and its different characteristics here in a haiku. And then in an elegy, so usually this is done for mourning, grief, death. These are the topics that this deals with. And then a limerick. So a limerick is something you can actually try to do because it's a comedic, a humorous type of poetry. It's trivial. So you just talk about um, certain things in your life that you find funny. That's what you can do for a limerick. A ballad, that's a song. Usually, before it was done and um, recited with music. And then we have an ode. So an ode is usually done to give praise to a person or an event, to commemorate an event. And lastly, we have the epics. So epics are usually about legends or heroes. So this is a type of writing that focuses on the pursuits, the journeys of these heroes that we hear about. Okay, so just to test your knowledge, you can type your answers in the chat below. So the old pond. So what subtype of poetry is this? So if you can see here your options: sonnet, haiku, elegy, limerick, ballad, ode, epic. So you can just type in your answer here. Yes, haiku, tama. And then Shakespeare, what did he popularize? What did he help popularize among the choices here? Yes, sonnet. And lastly, Homer's The Iliad and the Odyssey. So what type of subtype of poetry is it based on our choices here? Yes, epic. You are correct. Epic, because it talks about the historical pursuit or the pursuit of a historical figure or legend. So thank you for that, everyone. Now we move on to more of the content part of a poem. So here comes our poetic devices. So here we have to remember the use of sound devices. So when you write, of course, we try to make things as vivid as possible for our reader. So some devices that you can make use of are alliteration and onomatopoeia. So alliteration. An example of this: Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So tatatak siya sa isip mo, di ba? Because here we repeat initial consonant sounds. So another type of this is she sells seashells by the seashore. So you can make use of that in your poem just to give this element of sound. And of course, onomatopoeia. So this is where you describe the sound that occurred. So for example, tires screeched pop or pop. So these help in creating this atmosphere, this environment in your poetry. So remember to make use of sound devices because they can help you, and they make your poem more memorable, should I say. Babalikan yan ng mga readers mo because they tak yan sa isip nila. Okay, then we also have rhyme. So rhyme, usually we encounter this with poetry where we have these ending words, final words in a stanza, and then they rhyme with another one in another stanza. So here, end rhymes determine the rhyme scheme. So, for example, we can see this song, a popular song. So, in the first sentence or first stanza, the last word is healthy. In the second, the last word is ask. In the third, the last word is baby. And in the fourth, that. So, in rhyme, you have to look at the rhyme scheme. Now, the rhyme scheme, this is composed of the end rhymes. So let's see which words, which ending words here rhyme and which do not. So um, if you can type in the chat box, what kind of rhyme scheme do you see here in this song, in this verse of a song? So which ending words or which end rhymes go together and which don't. So if you see this, healthy rhymes with baby and ask rhymes with that.
May walang kabuguan. May pwede.
Ayun. So Larson Santos was able to get A, which is correct because if you see healthy and baby, so we can consider this as A, and then ask and that can be considered as B.
Hello.
Okay. And then we move on to the next type of sound device. So remember that in rhyme, this is the repetition of sounds in a poem. Okay? So for the next part, so this is rhythm. So this is the pattern of sound. So the groove of your poem. So here the beat pattern is made up of the stressed and unstressed syllables in a poem. So ano ba yung mga um what what are these syllables that you find yourself stressing or emphasizing when you recite, and what are those that you don't? So for example, if you look at these lines, these stanzas. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So, maybe you can try to recite it yourself and then find how many syllables do you actually stress in this. So you can type it in the chat box. So actually, this line, this stanza, and the other one, so heartbreaker's gonna break, 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 break. So they have the same, more or less the same rhythm in terms of the number of stressed and unstressed syllables. So you can try it for yourself. So, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So how many syllables have you stressed and unstressed? How you can guess in the chat box how many did you stress first in this line? So shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So if you look at it, actually, if you can try it for yourself, kasi sasabihin ko na, these are five. So you have five stressed and unstressed syllables. So actually, we call this iambic pentameter in literature. So yes, there's a total of 10 syllables. But if you look at how you stress each syllable, you'll find that there's a difference in how you stress them. So actually, if you divided it by two, so five, you can see you stressed five syllables while you did not stress the enunciation of the other five syllables. So you can try to look at that for yourself. So it's important to have rhythm in your poem, in your piece, because it makes it more memorable. And it keeps your poem alive. This is what causes it to be different from other forms of writing, because meron siyang rhythm, there's a pacing that you can have in reading these words, and these actually have an impact on the overall message or essence of your poem. All right, and another important thing to look at in doing poetry is your figurative language. So your figurative language here, you can try to make use of these in doing poetry. So you have metaphor. So metaphor, time is gold. So this is when you try to say something is something else. So time is gold. So you stated that it is something else aside from itself. And then similarly, so here you make use of terms such as like to liken or to make two things come together. So you show that they are similar to each other. For example, just forgot to put I'm here, but I'm smooth like butter. So you can try to show, oh, this person, as a potential suitor maybe, uh, what's he like? What's his characteristic like? So you can liken it to something else. And then here in personification, so the sky is morning. So here we give human-like qualities to inanimate objects or things that are not human at all. So you give them you give them these actuations, uh, these terms, so that it's like they're a person themselves. And then here in hypophora, so this is something new that you can try to incorporate in your poetry. So here an example is, why do we live? We live so we can love. So in using this, you always have a question that you present, but then it's you who answers it as well. So it's kind of like a rhetorical question, but here you actually provide the answer, and you do this to develop this dialogue between the reader and the writer. So for you as a writer, if you write this, you can get your reader thinking. So it kind of creates this bridge, this opportunity for the reader to engage with your thought process. And here you provide an answer. So you can also try to have this like type of conversation with them in your writing by writing this type of hypophora. Ayun. Okay, and then we move on. Ayun. So we move on to practice again. So here, you just have to write make complete a quatrain following the ABAB rhyme scheme that we saw a while ago. So in ABAB, so the first and third stanzas, their ending words have to rhyme. And then for BB, so that's your second and fourth stanzas, their ending words have to rhyme. So here I already gave a prompt. So Krista Marie closed her eyes. So you have to make sure that line 3, the ending word of line 3 rhymes with the ending word of line 1, which is eyes. Okay? Then line 2, line 4, kayo na bahala dun. You can do whatever. Just make sure that the ending words of line 2 and line 4 rhyme. So we can try to do this together again. Just make sure that you complete the quatrain so that we can try to see if we can make a story out of this poem that you will make. So just type your poem in the chat box. So let's try together. Okay, so I tried to make my own piece. So here Krista Marie closed her eyes with the wind howling loudly. She sat up and let out a sigh. Tonight she would not be sleeping soundly. So the first and third stanzas, you can see their ending words. So eyes and sigh, respectively, they rhyme. While the second and fourth stanzas, their ending words also rhyme. So here you can see, diba, equal sila ng rhyme scheme, ng ending rhyme. So that will help your poem in making your reader, remember your poem. So again, for this exercise, just make sure that, you can write about anything. You just make sure that your ending words of your second and fourth stanzas rhyme, and then the ending words of your first and third stanzas rhyme. Okay, so while we wait for that, ayun, everybody, please remember to accomplish the attendance form. So Jaime has linked this in the chat again. So this is just for us to confirm your attendance for today's workshop. So please answer that. And this is different from the evaluation form that we will send later on. Okay, so we have from Carla. So Krista Marie closed her eyes and I wonder when they'll open. Her eyes make the sun rise and my heart beat again. O, diba? So Carla was able to rhyme eyes and rise together and open and again. Thank you, Carla, for that. So it's interesting because you're also able to, aside from this point of view sa first line ng narrator, you also inserted your point of view with the I pronoun. So thank you. Okay. So from Brian, Krista Marie closed her eyes, tons of work, so busy. The phone rang, what a surprise. Was that the delivery? Thank you, Brian. That's That's really funny. Thank you. So, ang galing because ice and surprise they rhyme. Busy and delivery. Thank you for that. So, you see, even with just four stanzas, you were able to already create a story. And the difference of this with the regular, short stories or novels or essays, meron talagang rhythm and rhyme. So it helps your reader understand it more and creates more fun engagement nga with um yun nga, your reader. So thank you for these po. So you can continue to try to write your own poem following this exercise. And ayun. So now we move on to another type of poetry. Actually, I just wanted to share this with everyone because I found it very interesting, and it's something that can really help you if you want to get started with poetry. So what is blackout poetry? I wonder if any of you have encountered this before. So maybe you can try to chat in the Zoom chat box if you were able to. Blackout poetry. So what is it? It's redacted poetry. So if you are familiar with, when we have to redact a piece of a piece of a text, like in a document, so you have to erase words. So this is what it is, redacted poetry, and it's actually a type of found poetry. So when we say found poetry, a found poem, this is actually when you take an existing text. So this can be anything from an article, a magazine article, a newspaper article, a tweet, a speech, a document, a letter. So you can take any piece of text and then repurpose this into a new type of writing. So this is what it is. It's found poetry. Um, so this is yeah. So thank you, Carlo. So that's great. You're familiar with this. So this is a type of refashioned text because again, you take something else that's already existing and then you make it your own. Okay, so actually, this type of blackout poetry. So one of the reasons why I would like to introduce this or remind you about this today, because it helps actually with overcoming writer's block. Because you see these random words on a page, or you see this text with its original purpose, and then you as a person, you can test your creativity by how do I make something new out of this? How do I create this new piece of text using another text that already exists with its original intent. So this helps you. This tests your creativity. What words do I use? What words do I retain to come up with this new type of poetry that I can share? So ayun, it enables you to create something new for yourself to share. Okay, so a popular anthology or compilation of blackout poetry is from Austin Kleon. So he's a contemporary writer, and he was able to actually find these texts and make these into different types of blackout poetry. So, for example, if you can read this, so nakikita nyo, he was able to find this text, and then he literally scribbled out everything that was not of use to him and only retain the words that would create his new poem. All right. So, for example, here, what are the words that are retained? And let's see what is he trying to show? So, Seth acquired strange new demons, but he, for once, has an interesting dream. Okay, so you can see, this text I think was from a newspaper article. So you can see he was able to create this new type of world or this new situation uh with with the poetry or the blackout poetry method. Okay, let's take a look at another one. So this is another one from his collection. Okay, so in love, all you can do is fail so badly the first time. The rest you don't mind at all. So baka may mga makarelate dyan. So you can see it also came from a magazine article, and he was able to repurpose this into showing us a poem about love, the events that happen when one is in love. And then for our last example, so this is our point in doing blackout poetry. So anyone can scribble out words. We can all do that. But the clever part is knowing which words to leave. So it's important that you, in doing this type of exercise, you have this vision in your head. Well, so what can I do with these existing words, and how can I make this something else entirely, something so different from the original purpose or content of the text? So traditionally, as we can see here, this was done using marker. So you just erase the words that you don't need with a marker. But nowadays, you can also do this online. So there are different ways to do redacted or blackout poetry. So you can erase them, so perhaps like with paint or these apps. And I saw something from Miss Joanne Meg Porter. So she says she encountered something similar through a collage maker who uses cutouts and library cards to form poetry. So there. Another one is Lou Alcazaran, a Pinoy collage maker who crafts poems through wrapper cutouts. So that's a good practice as well, because you see, this is the beauty of this type of writing. You can make things out of other things and make a entirely different creative work um, that will help you not only overcome writer's block but also create a beautiful piece in the end. Okay, so let's just try a quick practice. So this is actually part of a news article that I found on misinformation in the Philippines in relation to our elections here. So if you can, perhaps you can try to screenshot this, and then if you can, perhaps you can try to erase or just highlight the words that you would like to yun nga, to show for this to be a whole new poem. Okay, so that's an exercise you can do while we move on, because this will probably take some time in identifying what words or what letters can you actually retain. But I tried to do one myself. So this is just a quick exercise. So here you can see everything else was redacted, but you leave these words and letters that just make up the essence of your poem. So here in the Philippines, misinformation spreads. So you can see here spread. So you also retain the S, the nearest S to this word, so that it can form one word. And then here, like AFIRE, like a fire. So that's something you can try to do. So remember that when you do blackout poetry, you're just not limited to, retaining these blocks of text or these words. You can also, for example, here, what I did with fire, you can try to find the letters of this word that you're trying to include in your piece. And then one by one, if you find them in different words, you can just retain them, like what we did here in this piece of blackout poetry. Okay, so here our possible output in contribution to the anthology that you would like to make. So you choose any kind of text. So this can be a magazine article, a newspaper article, a paragraph in a book, speech, or even a tweet. I don't know if you're familiar, but there was this time on Twitter that former President Donald Trump's tweets were actually um, revised or messed with, and then redacted poetry was done. I think it's also something that you can see online sa mga Facebook posts. You can see yung mga photos with these quotes from people who are interviewed, like for example, mga artista or government officials, and then you see these people like redact certain lines and then a whole new message comes out or meaning. So that's a type of blackout poetry that's possible. So in your poem, be sure to provide a title and construct your poem. So you have absolute freedom here. Doesn't need to rhyme because this is a type of poem that is free verse, so it's entirely up to you. And you have your poetic license, so you can do whatever you want to do with your blackout poetry. Okay, so if you have any questions about that section, you can entertain them in the Q&A later after this last type of creative writing that we will discuss today. So the short story. So I want you to think about short stories. So do you enjoy reading them? Because compared to a novel, they are more manageable, should I say, to read given your time schedules. And then if you can remember what short story had the biggest impact on you as a reader? So remember, the short story is always written in prose. So prose is ordinary everyday language, written spoken language. So it doesn't have to rhyme. It's just pure, uh, the usual language that we have. And remember that it is fiction. So based on imaginary events or events that you have come up with, and characters you have come up with, but it's not based on facts or based on or doesn't talk about your life. And remember that the short story only focuses on one conflict or event because nga, of its nature as a short piece or a shorter type of writing, where you are able to convey a story. So you only have to focus on one conflict or event. Okay, so that being said, it can be read in one sitting. The recommended word count is up to 10,000 words, although in other publications, they also allow up to 15,000 words. And the recommended number of pages, 49 and below, because beyond that, you would already be making a novel. Okay, so remember in writing a short story, some important elements that you have to take into mind or take into consideration. So here we have the plot. So the plot is the sequence of events that you have. So here we have the diagram. So I'm sure you've encountered this maybe in your literature classes or when you do writing. So we have the diagram that shows the exposition. The exposition is where the background of your characters and the setting are introduced. You have your opening incidents. So this is where the conflict is introduced in your story. So it sets your plot into motion. And then we have the rising action. So this leads up. So here tension is increased in your story, and this leads to the climax. So the climax, remember, is the turning point of your story. So this is actually the most important part, where the conflict has already been dealt with, and then this changes the course of your story entirely. Then the falling action, so this is the aftermath of what happened in the climax. And lastly, the resolution. So this is the conclusion of your plot and where your questions. So if you have so many questions about the story that you read, this is the place where they are answered. Now, the other important elements to consider, we have character. So in writing, it's recommended and it makes for a more interesting story to make your character dynamic. So when we say dynamic, that means they have this character development, this arc. So for example, you have this flawed character and he learns a lesson or he undergoes change. It could be for the worse, it could be for the better, but a change happens in your character in your short story. And here we also have the setting. So in the setting, you consider your time, place, and environment. So when we say time, it's given the time period that you're in. So was it set in the 1980s? When was it set? Was it set in this modern age? And then we have place. So place just talks about the geographical location that you're in. So are you in the Philippines? Are you in England? Are you in Australia? Are you in the forest? Where are you? So that's where you have to consider, yeah, where is your story situated. And lastly, the environment. So in the environment, it differs from place because it actually, this is the part where you focus on what was the social or cultural situation at the time in your story. So what's the political backdrop of your story? So was there um a, an arising class division, or what historical, what type of political or historical or cultural or social cultural backdrop does your story have? And then we also have the theme. So the theme is the central idea of your short story. So what is it that you would like to say, what to impart to your readers? And actually, I skipped over conflict. So conflict, is it internal conflict? Is it within the character? Or is it external conflict? So is this the character versus something else entirely? So an example of this, you have man versus man. So the character versus their antagonist. And then we have man versus nature. So the world that he's living in, or man versus society. So is he against, or is he or she against this society that he lives in? And then we also have the point of view. So the point of view is how you tell the story. So just like the essay a while ago. So from whose standpoint are we reading the story? So we have the use of the I, you, or he or she pronouns. So in I, this is first person. So you live as the character. um, this is limited to the character's point of view. And then you have you, so this is the second person point of view, where the reader feels like they are part of the story because you talk to them in this you fashion. And then we have the third person point of view, so where you can make use of he or she. So actually, we have two different types of point of view: limited and omniscient. So in omniscient, the narrator knows everything. They know what will happen to the characters, what will happen in the plot. And then in limited, you only know what, or you're limited to just one character. So parang the point of view that you have with a limited third person point of view, that means that you actually don't know, or you don't convey to your reader anything anything external from the character that you're telling the story from. Okay. Okay, so a short story that we can look at for this portion is The Gift of the Magi. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with The Gift of the Magi, but it's a short story that has a wonderful lesson in the end. So it was written by O. Henry. And let's take a look at this short story. So something to remember: when you write a short story, you have to captivate your audience with the opening scene. So it helps to have something like a plot twist sa simula pa lang. So let's take a look at this. So $1.87. That was all. So you can see at the start that the situation of our character is that they are impoverished. They live meagerly. So it kind of tugs at your heartstrings. And then you see at the last sentence, and the next day would be Christmas. So it kind of it's sad because you can see that this is all they have, and then it's Christmas season. So this is something that the author intended, so that you'd feel this sympathy for the characters sa simula pa lang ng short story mo. Okay? And then you have to remember to establish the conflict. So in the story, for example here, so if you read this, you can see that the character Della actually had this conflict because didn't have enough money to buy a nice gift for her husband, Jim. So here you introduce the conflict. So if you can read that, that's the essence of this part. And then you have the point of conflict. So this is where you are able to show uh, what happened. So how did she deal with the conflict? What did she do uh, with this that led to perhaps did she resolve her conflict? Um, so we can see here that she actually took action to to deal with this conflict that she had inside of her, of giving a gift to her husband. So you can see here the point of conflict, and then here you follow through with the climax. So again, the climax is the turning part or turning point of your short story. So here, Della, so she was able to buy her gift for Jim. So she actually sold her hair so that she could buy him a gift, a present. So when she came home, her hair was chopped off. So it's different from the long hair that she had at the start of the story. So here, her husband sees her, and he's startled because why did you cut your hair? And then you can see that this is the turning point. That was her sacrifice of her hair worth it? Um, well, you be the judge, because here we see that the husband actually bought her these combs that she wanted for her long hair before, but now she only had short hair. So this is where the sequence of events takes a turn, because you see, oh my goodness, the conflict that Della was dealing with. So she did something about it, but it led to this point where did she have to do it at all? So it makes you think about the story, the turn of events that it took. So after that comes the falling action. So this is where the tension from that scene it lies low. So after receiving the gift from Jim, she gives Jim her gift. So she bought him a chain for his watch. But to our surprise, Jim actually sold his own watch. So would he have a use for it? Ayun. So here we can see at the last sentence, the last paragraph, how they resolve this situation. So although they bought each other expensive Christmas gifts, by sacrificing these valuable items that they had, um, yun nga, they weren't able to put these to use, giving out their actions in the story. So that's something to think about. But, and this leads to the resolution. So if you look back at the title of the story, it's called The Gift of the Magi. So here the author shows why, so it gives you a glimpse into why was it titled that way, because looking at what they did, it doesn't seem very sensible, that they sold their most valuable possessions in order to buy gifts for each other that were actually pretty useless at the end of the story. But here the author closes the story with a resolution, because he shares that out of everyone who gives gifts, these two are actually the most wise, because no matter what they did, the actual thought and what they did in thinking of each other that Christmas season, of giving each other thoughtful gifts, that's what mattered the most. And that's why they are the Magi, because they are wise in considering each other first, despite the outcome, uh, because they loved each other that much to sacrifice. That's all that mattered. So parang yun yung naging ending, yun yung resolution ng ating story that we discuss now. Okay. All right. So hopefully we're able to understand why it's important to have yung a structured plot, and to incorporate in this plot yung mga elements uh, of a short story that we would need, so that your short story would be organic, would be something that makes sense. Okay, so here, let's try to practice again. So here we have a prompt. Roses in hand, Elizabeth's veiled figure moves slowly down the church's nave. Okay, so with this prompt, I want you to try to think and make an opening scene. So you can how long, you can make it however long you want, but just make sure that perhaps it shows a twist at the end, so an unexpected twist, so that tayo as readers, we would be engaged to read the rest of your story. So you can try to complete this prompt here in our Zoom chat. Okay, so I'll also try to write with you guys. So let's try. Okay, so let's try everyone to just to create an interesting and a short, siguro short na lang na opening scene for a possible short story. So just remember, it would be useful to have this take a turn of events, so something unexpected. Just so, ma-practice lang natin yung method na ganon. So it can also help you in writing your own work. Okay, so I was able to come up with this type of introduction opening scene. So let's try to see if you were caught off guard. So uh, here we start with roses in hand. Elizabeth's veiled figure moves slowly down the church's nave. In front of the altar was the love of her life, dressed in his best black suit. Uh, Trembling, Elizabeth closed her eyes and whispered to him, I love you, leaving a gentle kiss on the glass pane. So maybe it's something you would not expect, but it depends on your interpretation. Okay, so we have one from Joanne Meg Porter. So roses in hand, Elizabeth's veiled figure moves slowly down the church's nave. Petals line the aisle as the choir sings and the piano hums a merry tune. The bride looked back at her in awe as every stride drew all the attention in her crimson-stained dress. I love you, Martha, she croaks, reaching out to her with his hand. Wow. Thank you, Joanne Meg Porter. What a interesting opening scene. So you were able to put many elements in your opening scene palang, and I like how you put yung dialogue. Nag-include ka talaga ng dialogue dito. Kasi nga, since we are dealing with a short story, that's something we'll have to practice as well. So thank you for that. Uh, and the use of action verbs here, it really helps as well. So thank you for that. Okay, so you can also, so to everyone else, you can try to write your own opening scene as we move on to the last practice for this. So here, let's try to practice dialogue. Let's try to make siguro like kahit a few lines between these two characters. So you can use Taglish or just the Filipino language or English or basta something we can understand in your output. So in making your dialogue, you have to consider the character of each person posted here. So here we have Carl, 22, who's a homebody, and Cassandra, 22, who is outgoing. So you see that they have different characters. Um, and they're both of the same age. So how would they interact in a short story, given the scenario here? So they're college students and their class is dismissed an hour early. So what are their plans? So here, try to make a dialogue between the two of them. So again, you can use Taglish, uh, anything you would like, as long as we can understand. And let's try to make this dialogue between the two of them para lang ma-highlight rin ano ba yung pagkakaiba nila in facing the situation. So what would they do if class is dismissed an hour early? So here you can also apply your own practice. So what would you do if class, so we're talking about yun nga, usual classes in a trimester. So if class is dismissed an hour early, what would you do if you were a homebody or if you were an outgoing person? So it would help. So let's see how you can incorporate your own experience or your own bias, siguro, with making your dialogue between these two characters. So let's try. Uh, so of course, let's expect na they won't have the same answer to this situation. Okay. Oh, yeah, there we have from Carlo. Thank you, Carlo. Cassandra, tara na, diretso na tayo sa CASAA. Ha? Matagal na mas punog yun, uwi na lang ta. Very nice, Carlo. Thank you. Thank you for that. You can see Cassandra wants to go out, but Carl doesn't want to. Okay. And we can even see yung um, pag-correct sa kanya ni Carl. So baka mas alam kasi niya kasi si Cassandra baka ano sa ibang bagay, baka she was focused on other things kaya hindi niya napansin yun. So thank you for that, Carla. So for the others, you can also try to make your own dialogue. So make sure to show in your dialogue the character of these two persons that we have here. Okay. So for your possible output for and to make a short story, so you provide a title. So of course, again, with any type of writing, you always have to provide a title so that it can be identified. Then you write your short story with all of the elements we have discussed in mind. So make sure that your short story only deals with one conflict. Para hindi rin kayo mahirapan, it will help to just, especially if you're starting and writing a short story. So just make sure it focuses on one conflict and one event so that it's easy to read, to also make into a short story, so that from that one conflict you can construct the other parts of your story that will create your short story again. So yeah, you have to limit the focus to one conflict or event. Okay, so with everything that we have discussed today about creative writing, some things that you should take into consideration are the following. Okay, so you do your research, especially if you're going to write. Of course, with any type of writing, you have to do your research. Most especially if you do, based on my experience, if you do a short story, because it's important that if you want to make it as realistic or as organic and sensible as possible, you have to make sure that everything that you write, everything is actually, they make sense. So it's hard, to write about, let's say, uh a short story with the main character as a doctor, and then if you don't know, you know, what do doctors do, or what is the routine like, your story won't be that believable. So it's important to do your research on your characters. um, it will also help to do a character sketch so you know how to give them good lines of dialogue in your short story. And also in creating your setting. So what type of setting is this, and make sure it's something that, it will actually make sense, because even though this is a fiction piece, it always has to make sense. The events and what happens in your short story have to be organic. They have to lead to one another. So of course, make an outline. So like with any other paper, you have to make your own outline so you can know what is your flow when you write. And then you have your work critiqued. So it's important to get feedback on your work. So from your peers, from professionals, from anyone. It's important to have different perspectives look into your work, and then you also gain these new lessons so that you can also improve on your writing. Uh, but of course, you have to still stay true to your nature as a writer. But looking at the critiques that you will receive, at least you'll know how to improve on these. So after you have your work critiqued, of course, you revise, revise, revise. So you revise until you reach this point that your work is considered it's okay, it's organic. Then you submit for publishing. So actually, if you would like to get published, it's advisable that you build on your portfolio. So when you build on your portfolio, it's good for you to have various types of writing. So that ranges from poetry, essay, short story, novel, if you can, uh, anything, any creative work, so that they can see, oh, this is your branding as a writer. So as early as now, if you are an aspiring writer, you build on your portfolio, you engage in projects such as the anthology of the AA program, so that people can get to see how you write and what you have to offer as a creative writer. Okay, so now we move to the possible outputs that you can have for this workshop. So you can choose from the following: so personal essay, blackout poem, short story. So please send in your submissions via the shared drive. So I will send here a link in the chat box, and also via email after this workshop. You can share your submissions in this drive. So on or before June 12, perhaps, following the file format as stated below. So the type of submission, underscore last name, first name, underscore program. So example, blackout poem, Fama Krista Marie AA. So of course, include in your submission your title as well as the piece itself. And that with that being said, so what I have hinted at a while ago, so the AA program plans to come up with this ebook. So it's something similar to what Ma'am Tess actually shared in our AA space. So from UP Cebu, actually, Ma'am Tess was able to share this ebook. So it's a compilation of different works, essays, poems, short stories. So this is something that we in the AA program would like to do as well. With your help and your contribution, we can make this possible. So we hope to receive your submissions from this workshop, and of course, we will ask for your consent to publish this online, so that this can be a stepping stone for you if you are an aspiring writer, or even if you enjoy writing. This can help you in honing your skills and building up your brand as a creative writer. So we hope to receive your submissions, and we will share the link to the shared drive in a while, where you can upload your submissions. Okay, so lastly, from this blackout poem, I'd like to share. I found the art. All it cost me was a sheet of paper and time. So that's for pretty much any type of art that we have. You see in illustration, in writing. So it just takes time. Us as artists, especially as uh, part of the AA program. So it's um, it's needless to say that with us involved in the AA program, it's our mission to uplift the state of arts and humanities, not only in UP Open University, but also in the Philippines as well. We all can do our part to contribute to you know um, making arts and humanities more visible among our peers, our colleagues in the world. So with this, we hope to contribute to that. And with this anthology, we hope to show that ang gagaling talaga ng mga AA students and ang galing ng AA community. And we hope that this will continue on so that, we can inspire more people to continue writing and to continue contributing their work, their talents as artists. So ayun, thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to this presentation. And I hope that you were able to enjoy yung mga practice, yung mga exercises natin a while ago. And uh, now we will entertain any questions that you will have. So I will just stop share, and I hope to be joined by Jaime again. So thank you once again, everyone, and uh, good morning. Okay. So Jaime, okay, so because nagfe-feedback kasi yung, what you call this, nagfe-feedback kasi yung mic ni Jaime. So ayun, if you have any questions or concerns about this workshop, you can type them here and we'll try to answer them as best as we can. Okay, so let me see what we have here. Ayun, ang dami palang submissions. Thank you everyone. Thank you for your submissions. Ayun. I think this is more of a question. Maybe Ma'am Des can answer this. We have a question po from Peter. Plans of having creative writing subject in AA program? Ayun. Maybe Ma'am Tess can help. I can't speak for the AA program. Hello po, ma'am.
Yes, hello.
Hello po, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon. Afternoon na tayo.
Ay, afternoon na po pala.
So anyway, hi. Thank you so much for coming, joining with us now this workshop. This is actually our second year in creative writing. And yeah, with the question of, was it from Peter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, as of now, Peter, kasi nga, yung curriculum ng AA program ay intact na siya. So, buo na siya. Last year pa natin nagiging buo siya. As of now, wala pa tayo doon sa time frame na magdagdag ng another course. But I'm sure you will be learning a lot when you come to your third year and fourth year. No, kung BAMS ba or BEST ba ang ipoproceed niyo. Yeah, you will have much of your time there to learn more about writing. So, ang ginawa natin sa program ngayon is we're trying to reach out and parang binibigyan lang natin ng konting introduction, no? And yeah, as mentioned by Krista, we're hoping to produce our anthology. Yes, Chris.
Yan. Thank you po, ma'am.
If Jaime can join us, o off lang muna tayo ng...
Sige po, ma'am. Okay. Jaime, hello.
Hindi namin naririnig si Jaime. Pero naka-off na
Hello,
siya.
Jaime?
Naka-mic na.
Yes po, ma'am. Maybe the headset po niya. Hello, Jaime. Our moderator for today.
Ayun, sorry kasi nagkakaroon kasi ng feedback. So, may feedback ba ulit, Krista?
Okay, clear ka na sa amin, Jaime.
Wow, di okay na pala ako, Ma'am Tess. Yan. So, thank you, Krista. So, ano pa yung mga ibang questions natin? Okay, so may question dito, Ma'am Tess, would the contributions, especially for the new writers, will they undergo workshops?
You mean my training ulit?
I think so, ma'am. I think the question is asking if there's another workshop for, especially for the new writers. Si, possible naman, I think.
Yeah, pwede naman. We can schedule another workshop for that. Pero itong in-encourage natin na article to be contributed for our anthology, medyo kailangan natin itong gawin ng mabilis na oras. So, with the contribution, as mentioned by Miss Krista kanina, we will be having some editors. So, meron tayong language editor, the text editors, and so from there, makukuha naman yung mga critiques. So then we have the revision and revision and revision until we hope to have this published in September. And this would go through together with our Digital Humanities Fiesta. So, yun ang pinaka-target natin ngayon. Yeah, but if we
Nice.
want to have, if there's a need, Jaime, to have one focus ano ba to, discussion or a focus talaga workshop for new writers, I think we can have that. We can schedule again. Thank you.
Yan. Thank you, Anne, for the question. So, I think more or less yun lang yung question nila. And Ma'am Tess can entertain questions, by the way, guys, about AA. So if you have questions as well about the program, pwede na kayo
Jaime,
magtanong. Yes?
may i-add lang ako about the yun outputs now. So, what would happen would be we will receive your outputs and then yun nga, with your consent, we will include your outputs in the anthology of the AA program. And then we will also provide feedback on this for your improvement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Krista. So, my feedback sorry. Ayan, so, Ma'am Tess needs to speak. Sandali, mag-mute lang ako para walang feedback.
No, ikaw muna. Baka mayroon ka pang sasabihin. Ikaw
Ayan,
muna.
so, may comment kasi si Brian. Tatanong ko po sana kung yung sa draft revisions.
Hmm.
Okay. So, Brian, okay na ba tayo dito sa question mo? Wala nang follow-up to?
Yes, okay na po yan. Yung concern ko lang kanina is about dun sa contributions kasi isasubmit siya for publishing. So, I understand na isasubmit namin yung draft or yung final draft basically. But of course, it would still go editing or potentially some revision. So, yun
Yes,
yung
yeah.
gusto ko itanong. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So we would be happy, no, to receive contributions from the rest of the A program. Tapos kahit nga hindi siya sa AA, we will still be accepting those contributions kasi nga importante na varied. Tapos yung na-mention nga ni Krista kanina, it's not only about yung 'di ba yung hindi lang siya short stories, kung mahilig ka sa poetry, so doon ang focus mo and so on. So it could be a fiction or non-fiction. So lahat papasukin natin. Okay. So any more question? Go Jaime.
Ayan, so mukhang wala na silang mga questions. Kung may mga questions pa kayo guys, you can raise your hand. You can say it live.
Yeah.
So wala na muna siguro Ma'am Tess. Sige, mag-mute
Okay.
muna ako
Do we
para wala
have
na feedback.
do we have deadlines, Chris? Let's have deadlines for our first draft.
Yes. Yes po, ma'am. So based on what was discussed a while ago, so perhaps just to give you also ample time because we know that you have busy schedules and it takes time to really think of a good creative piece, something important for you to share. So if this is nonfiction, it takes some time also as well to think of what experience can I share and what lesson exactly came from this. So and then for nonfiction, for fiction pala, you also have to think of your outline, you have to prepare your draft, what's your story or your what is it going to be about. So just to give you ample time for that. So given that it is May 28th now, so perhaps we can give you around considering also that registration is around the corner, so that would be in the second week of June. So maybe if June 12 would be okay for everyone, or ano po ma'am, Tess, maybe
Yeah.
what would be a good date?
Yeah, June 12 would be the best time kasi nga classes would start on June
Mm,
20. So parang
yes po ma'am.
before the classes would start, you can at least give us a first draft. No, so we would love that, no, to see your first piece, yung first copy natin. And then dahan-dahan nating i-improve yun. Or baka yung iba nga wala nang kailangang
Yeah.
i-improve. Tingnan natin. Oo.
Opo ma'am.
Yes.
Okay,
Sige,
thank you po
so
ma'am.
Krista will be sending via email again yung instructions, di ba, Chris? Tapos
Yes po
yung
ma'am.
guidance nila and so on. Okay.
Yes po, ma'am.
Thank
So, thank you po, ma'am. And I think we have, if you can see in the chat, the evaluation form is there. So, you can accomplish this so that you can receive your e-certificate of participation for this workshop. And then, once we have received your output, so we'll be able to give you your certificate of completion naman for this workshop. So, ayun, we really look forward to receiving your submissions because it's important also for the AA program. Kasi aside from academics, it's also important that we help everyone with the field of arts and humanities. It's important to make this, let's say, active once again, especially since, given our situation, we're still in a pandemic, and then with our mode of learning online. So it's important to have an outlet to create, and we hope that with this you can find solace, so you can actually apply your skill set here, and it will be appreciated by many, truly, because given our AA program, so of course people expect the best. We have great minds in this program, so it would really be great for all of you to pitch in so that we can create something to share with the entire community, and maging active rin tayo in the arts just like other UPCUs. Opo.
True. And I would like also to say to inform the group, so for the AA community that we have one application for a conference presentation in London by September. We hope to go, di ba? So, yung co-authors ko doon, sina Krista, Jaime, Enrico, Mickey, and Arlene. So hopefully next time, I was actually putting that sa AE space natin. Where anyone can also give yung mga performance video ninyo. Ang ganda, ang daming pwede nating puntahan. It's also a way of not only sharing but also learning again. No? So hopefully you'll be there, and next time around, dapat lahat tayo. Yeah, punta tayo. Like Jaime, I'm requesting Jaime to more or less tell us like who are our attendees this afternoon today. So Jaime, ilan ba diyan ang
Yes.
registered na
So according to the responses that we just received, so there are three students on their first term at UPOU, and then the rest have one student each. So there's one student for on their second term here at UPOU, and one student on their or on his or her third term in UPOU, and so on. So and one graduating student. So here at
okay.
UPOU. So more or less, those were the attendees in our workshop. The rest, they are not under AA.
Mm, okay, okay. Sige. So
So
thank you
konti
so
lang ma'am
much.
Tess. So
Yeah, I think hindi
and
pala yung
then
lahat yata, no? Nakapasok na attendance sheet. Nakapasok na ba lahat?
yeah, only 12 have filled out the attendance sheet. So may kulang pang around 6 kasi we're around 18, right? So mag-fill out na kayo guys para ma-confirm natin yung attendance ninyo. And for the attendees, by the way, for the workshops, yun, sadly wala naka-attend. Wala pala naka-attend sa kanila ng photography workshop, Ma'am Tess. So they were able to attend the video editing and this workshop
I
lang.
think Peter was there. Sa video ba
Mm,
yun? Or photography, right, Peter?
baks,
Photography. Sige. So baka
ay, may,
hindi ka nakapasok.
photography. So, zero, zero pa kasi ang nag select sa photography sa form natin. So, yun lang,
Right,
Ma'am
right.
Tess.
Thank you. How about Roflen Ray Atienza? Roflen is